grand ballroom had been decorated for hundreds of guests. Crystal chandeliers sparkled in the afternoon sunlight, a 5-tier birthday cake stood untouched at the center of the room, a live orchestra waited in silence, and rows of expensive gifts surrounded a golden chair prepared for the city's most powerful CEO. But as the clock struck 2 in the afternoon, not a single guest walked through the doors. The billionaire who had ruled boardrooms for decades sat alone in his wheelchair, staring at hundreds of empty seats, realizing that the people who had applauded his success had abandoned him the moment he became paralyzed. Just when he believed the day could not become more heartbreaking, the doors opened, not for wealthy executives or famous politicians, but for a struggling single dad carrying homemade cupcakes and holding his little son's hand. Before this unforgettable story begins, if you believe kindness is stronger than wealth, forgiveness is greater than revenge, hope can be found even in our darkest moments, and everyone deserves a second chance, please like this video, leave a meaningful comment, share it with someone who needs encouragement today, and subscribe to our channel so our community can continue sharing stories that inspire hearts around the world. Cedric Hawthorne had once been called the untouchable king of business. As the founder and CEO of one of the country's largest engineering companies, he had transformed a small family workshop into an international empire worth billions. His intelligence was legendary, but so was his cold personality. Employees respected him because they feared disappointing him. Business rivals admired his discipline but described him as impossible to approach. Cedric believed emotions only distracted people from success. His calendar was full, his offices were crowded, and every achievement attracted more admirers. Yet very few of those admirers truly knew him. 5 years earlier, everything changed during a devastating daytime helicopter crash while Cedric was traveling between company facilities. He survived, but a severe spinal injury left him permanently paralyzed from the waist down. Doctors delivered the heartbreaking news with honesty. He would never walk again. The physical pain eventually became manageable. The loneliness did not. Business partners slowly stopped inviting him to meetings. Friends who once insisted on expensive lunches suddenly became too busy. Investors preferred speaking with younger executives. Even distant relatives only visited when legal matters or financial opportunities appeared. Cedric watched his enormous social circle disappear until only a handful of loyal employees remained. Every birthday before the accident had been celebrated with hundreds of guests. This year, determined to prove life could continue, his executive assistant organized another grand celebration. Invitations were sent months in advance. Every influential name accepted. On the morning of the event, dozens of staff members transformed the ballroom inside Cedric's headquarters into a masterpiece of elegance. But one by one, cancellation messages arrived. Unexpected business meeting. Family emergency. Travel delay. Health concerns. Traffic. By lunchtime, every guest had withdrawn. Some never even bothered to explain. Cedric quietly instructed the musicians to stop rehearsing. The silence inside the ballroom became almost unbearable. Across town, another father faced struggles of a very different kind. Graham Porter worked as a maintenance technician at a public library. After losing his wife to cancer 4 years earlier, he dedicated every ounce of energy to raising his 9-year-old son, Owen. Life wasn't easy. Medical debt from his wife's treatment had forced them to sell their family home. They now lived in a small apartment where every dollar mattered. Despite constant financial pressure, Graham refused to let bitterness shape his son. He believed kindness was a choice, especially when life felt unfair. Every Saturday afternoon, Graham and Owen volunteered at community food drives, believing people should help others regardless of how little they possessed. That same birthday afternoon, while delivering repaired bookshelves to Cedric's headquarters, Graham accidentally overheard 2 employees discussing the empty birthday celebration. They laughed sadly about the untouched cake. Owen looked up at his father. His innocent face filled with concern. He quietly asked whether birthdays were supposed to feel lonely. The question pierced Graham's heart. Instead of returning home immediately, they stopped at a neighborhood bakery. Money was tight. They couldn't afford an expensive cake. So they bought 6 simple cupcakes decorated with colorful frosting. Owen carefully wrote a birthday card using crayons he carried in his backpack. The message was simple. It wished happiness to someone they had never met. When security guards saw them approaching the ballroom, confusion spread across their faces. Neither Graham nor Owen wore expensive suits. Neither appeared on the guest list. After a brief explanation, one compassionate employee quietly escorted them inside. Cedric expected another staff member arriving to remove decorations. Instead, he saw a tired father holding a small bakery box while a smiling little boy carried a handmade birthday card with both hands. For several moments, nobody spoke. The enormous ballroom suddenly felt less empty. Owen slowly approached Cedric and placed the card beside him. The child explained that birthdays should never be celebrated alone. Cedric stared at the colorful drawing on the front. It showed balloons, sunshine, and 3 smiling stick figures. Something inside him broke. Not from sadness. From overwhelming gratitude. No multi-million-dollar gift had ever touched him as deeply as those homemade drawings. Graham apologized for interrupting the private event. Cedric surprised everyone by inviting them to stay. The 3 shared cupcakes instead of the untouched luxury cake. They laughed. Talked. Listened. For the first time in years, Cedric forgot about quarterly profits and business reports. He learned about Owen's dreams of becoming an architect. He learned about Graham's late wife and the promises he made beside her hospital bed to raise their son with compassion rather than anger. Graham learned something unexpected as well. Behind Cedric's intimidating reputation stood a lonely man who regretted spending decades choosing work over relationships. That afternoon lasted only a few hours. Yet it changed every life inside the ballroom. The following week, Cedric quietly invited Graham and Owen to lunch. Then another lunch. Soon they became regular visitors. Owen filled Cedric's office with laughter. The boy proudly displayed school projects across conference tables once reserved for billion-dollar negotiations. Employees noticed something remarkable. Their CEO smiled again. He began asking workers about their families. He approved flexible schedules for parents. Medical benefits improved. Scholarship programs expanded. He even established paid volunteer days so employees could support community charities during working hours. People initially assumed these changes were clever public relations. They soon realized they came from genuine transformation. Meanwhile, Graham never accepted special treatment. He continued working honestly. When Cedric offered financial assistance, Graham accepted only help directly benefiting Owen's education, believing dignity mattered just as much as generosity. One afternoon, Cedric attended Owen's elementary school science fair. Parents assumed he was another wealthy donor. Instead, they watched the billionaire patiently helping children build cardboard bridges while laughing over spilled glue and crooked towers. News photographers captured images that spread across newspapers nationwide. But the pictures told only part of the story. The greatest transformation happened where cameras never reached. Cedric started reconnecting with employees he had ignored for years. He apologized to retired workers he had once dismissed too harshly. He established rehabilitation programs for injured employees whose careers had ended after workplace accidents. He personally visited hospitals supporting spinal injury research, hoping others might receive opportunities unavailable to him. Months later, Cedric organized another birthday celebration. This time the ballroom looked completely different. No expensive decorations. No celebrity entertainment. No luxury gift displays. Instead, sunlight poured through open windows onto long tables filled with children from hospitals, elderly residents from care homes, employees' families, volunteers, teachers, firefighters, nurses, and neighbors from every part of the community. There were wheelchairs beside strollers. Business executives beside construction workers. Everyone shared the same meal. No reserved seating. No status. Only people. As guests filled every chair, Cedric quietly remembered the previous birthday when hundreds of empty seats had revealed the painful truth about superficial relationships. This year there wasn't a single empty chair. Not because invitations were expensive. Because kindness had become contagious. Near the end of the celebration, Cedric surprised everyone with an emotional announcement. He established the Porter Foundation, named after Graham and Owen rather than himself. Its mission would support widowed parents, children facing financial hardship, and adults adjusting to life after paralysis. When reporters asked why he hadn't chosen his own family name, Cedric answered honestly. He explained that true family sometimes arrived carrying cupcakes instead of business contracts. Years passed. The foundation helped thousands rebuild their lives. Scholarships opened doors for children who believed college was impossible. Accessible housing transformed lives for families living with disabilities. Counseling programs supported grieving parents. Owen eventually fulfilled his childhood dream and studied architecture. His graduation project designed community centers fully accessible for people using wheelchairs. Cedric proudly attended every presentation. Not as a sponsor. As family. Graham often reflected on that ordinary afternoon when he almost drove straight home instead of entering the empty ballroom. He realized life's greatest decisions rarely announce themselves with fanfare. Sometimes they begin with a child's simple question. Sometimes they begin with 6 inexpensive cupcakes. Sometimes they begin when someone chooses compassion over convenience. Cedric never walked again. Yet in every meaningful way, he discovered a richer life than the one he had lived before his accident. His wheelchair no longer represented everything he had lost. It reminded him of the day he finally understood that success measured in money fades quickly, while kindness echoes through generations. Before we reach the end of this emotional journey, we'd love to hear from you. Please leave a meaningful comment sharing whether you believe one small act of kindness can completely change another person's life, or tell us about someone whose compassion transformed your own journey. As the warm afternoon sunlight streamed through the foundation's community garden years later, Cedric watched children laugh beside grandparents, volunteers serve meals with joyful smiles, and Owen proudly unveil the newest accessible playground designed for every child, regardless of physical ability. Graham stood nearby, quietly grateful that his son's compassionate heart had noticed what hundreds of powerful people had ignored. The loneliest birthday in one man's life had become the beginning of thousands of brighter tomorrows because a struggling single dad decided that no human being should celebrate alone. If this story touched your heart, please like this video, leave a meaningful comment, share it with someone who needs hope today, and subscribe to our channel so you never miss another emotional journey. May this story remind us that the most valuable gifts are rarely wrapped in expensive paper. Sometimes they arrive in a small bakery box, carried by ordinary people whose extraordinary kindness changes lives forever.